April 25th, 2013. From El Cajon, California, this is episode 18 of You Can Bet on That. Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Can Bet on That, a podcast for the recreational gambler. I'm Mark Duvall, and as usual, I'm joined by Dr. Mike.
Hello.
And we've got a special guest tonight, too, Paul Huyser, who is a friend of ours going way back. Paul used to go with us to Vegas back when we had no money, and we'd be like four guys to a hotel room, and we'd be lucky to be able to gamble one night and then try to find a cheap meal afterwards. So
right, slots of fun hot dog would be dinner.
Right, we'd be like staying at Landmark or Stardust or something cheap, and Paul's also an original player from our weekly poker game. So Paul,
he's
welcome.
Also part of the threesome that would go out to Sequan and
back in the 90s and play Pai Gow.
And play Pai Gow. Yeah, the three of us would combine our money and bank.
Yep, every weekend.
Every weekend. Yeah.
So Paul, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be here.
So let's jump right into it. So a few episodes ago, we were talking about Quinton Carter, who is a safety for the Denver Broncos. And he was arrested for allegedly past posting in a craps game. He was adding $5 to a winning bet that had not yet been paid by the dealer. So the dice had been rolled. He added money to the bet because he knew it had won. Before the dealer had paid him.
Yeah, we were thinking it was probably on like a natural, come out natural.
They didn't say specifically, but it probably was like a pass line bet that was rolled 7 or 11, and it was when he put the $5 out there real quick. So anyway, he was supposedly caught on camera doing it 3 times, and this is a felony in Nevada. They take cheating real serious.
Yeah. Well, they have
Nevada.
to. They have to.
Yeah, I mean it's their livelihood, right? It's the economy of the state. So for each one of these 3 times that he did it, he was facing 6 years in prison and a $10,000 fine for each one. So the total would have been 18 years in prison and $30,000.
Yeah. So for $15 in bets.
For a total of $15 in bets.
It's like the plot to Les Mis, right?
I guess.
Yeah, where the guy goes to jail for 18 years for stealing a loaf of bread.
Yeah, all right. So, yeah. Well, the charges have been dropped, which I think makes sense. I mean, it makes sense. It certainly, the punishment would not fit the crime.
Yeah, how could you?
It really is kind of crazy. But he did, as part of the agreement, he forfeited his $1,000 that he had posted for bail. And so apparently the charges have been dropped.
So it cost him 90.
So $9,985.
No, 900 because he $1,000 bill. You said 9,000.
Oh, whoops. Yeah.
So
okay.
$985.
$985. Yeah. So right, exactly, because he won those 3 bets.
Yeah, right.
He didn't have to give it back?
I don't think he had to give it back because
no,
he was
I'm sure he didn't give it back. Quinton, pay the $15 back.
That's what they should be. Yeah, give us the $15 back. We'll call it even. Well, we got a kick out of this because his defense was, and they're still saying this, his claim was that he didn't understand the game.
Yeah, totally bogus.
We don't go for that because the guy grew up in Las Vegas, right? This was a locals casino. It was Texas Station.
He obviously knew how to play craps.
I guess. I mean,
it seemed like it, right? He's at a craps table playing.
Right, but he's claiming he didn't understand the game. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, come on. You have to, in order to do that, you have to make your bet when the dealer's not looking.
Right. That's the
Otherwise, the dealer would say, hey, wait a minute, you can't do that.
Right.
So if you're in 3 times, if you did it once, maybe it's an accident. Twice, maybe it's a weird coincidence. 3 times you do that? Oh, come on. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah. And you said the cameras picked him up, right?
Right, yes.
The dealers never caught it.
Well, apparently not. I mean, they didn't, there weren't a lot of details, but yeah, if it's on camera, if the dealers catch him, it's no big deal. It was, they supposedly had him on tape.
Right. Yeah. So hey, you knew what you were doing.
Yeah. So anyway, and we talked about this before too. They may have just charged him to get the publicity, to send the word out that, hey, you can't cheat in Nevada. Right. Because you charge an NFL player, you're going to make the paper.
Right. Yeah. You or I do that. It doesn't even make the paper. No. I mean, nobody would know except you and the casino, right? Yeah. Yeah. This way, it's headlines.
They wouldn't even charge you.
No, they probably wouldn't even charge you. They'd probably ban you from the casino.
Right. Or, something. Exactly. You know. Anyway, so charges dropped for Quinton. So did either of you, this last weekend was the televised final table of the National Heads Up Poker Championship. Did either of you guys watch this?
No, we taped it.
It was a pretty good final table because it came down to Mike Matasow and Phil Hellmuth.
Yeah, two pretty volatile players, I'd say.
two TV characters, basically, right?
I
mean,
made for TV. It's perfect.
Yeah. So it was very entertaining, and it was it was 2 hours. It was just them. It was three. You know how the final works? It's actually 3 rounds.
Okay.
Right. Compare the leading up to that, it's just single elimination.
Right.
But on the final, it's 3 rounds, and you have to win 2 out of 3, right? Yeah. And it did go to a 3rd round.
Oh, so they split the first 2.
Yeah, they split the first 2. And it was so funny because Matasow was just, relentless in trying to get under Phil's skin, Yeah. And Phil was actually doing a pretty good job of dealing with it. He'd stand up every once in a while and turn around. And then, Matasow would go, "Oop, he's standing up. He's standing up."
He's easy to get riled, too, Hellmuth.
But it was entertaining, and then the very final hand, Hellmuth, he was behind like 2-1 in chips. Hellmuth was, and this hand came up where on the turn Phil only had a pair of kings. There was a king on the board and a king in his hand,
right?
And he shoved all in, and a couple seconds later, after Mike hadn't reacted, Phil's like, "Oh, good, he didn't snap call." So Phil was glad that, okay, Matasow's got a decision. Mm-hmm. So if he's got a decision, either he's going to fold or he's going to make a bad decision. Well, it turns out Matasow had a flush draw. He had, I think it was 8-4 of diamonds. And there were 2 diamonds on the board. He needed a diamond. So based on how much Phil had shoved, it would be a terrible call because he's a 4-1 underdog at that point to make this flush.
Right.
But Matasow, finally says, "No, this is my time. I'm going for it. I call," and turns over his hand. And it really was a terrible call. But sure enough, a diamond came at the river, and he won the whole tournament. And as soon as the diamond came and Matasow is celebrating, Hellmuth says, "Well, that's why I'm the best."
Yeah.
Because he knows he wouldn't have made that call, right?
Right.
And he always has to kind of stroke himself,
Oh, he always has to stroke himself. Well, the funny thing about that is it was a pretty big turning point how bad a call it was because you said they were 2-1 in chips, so that would have reversed.
Yeah, probably would have. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, right. He would have, or worse, right? He would have been.
Yep.
He would have been severely crippled. He was taking quite a chance on a diamond coming up.
Yep. But anyway, made for good TV, and glad to see the tournament came back too after taking a break last year.
I like that they have a rubber match.
Yeah,
in poker, a rubber match.
Yeah, it'd be great if they could do the whole tournament like that, but it would take forever. Yeah, so they only do it. Again,
That's funny.
So you were telling us about something you heard when you were listening to the Padre game in the car.
Yeah, we were driving back from Harrah's, my dad and I, on last Friday night, and so we're driving in. The Padre game ended, and the post game started. And they were discussing Randy Jones, ex-Padre player, does the postgame, along with, I think it's Craig Elston. I'm not positive of that, but if I remember correctly, it was Craig Elston. Anyway, we were discussing the merits of bunting. When you should bunt, when you shouldn't bunt. And Elston was bringing up statistics that bunting in the first inning is terrible.
And I guess the Padres have been doing that a lot lately.
They had been doing it. They had done it that night. That's why they were talking about it. They have bunted in the first inning 5 times so far this season, and that's in the first 20 games.
Okay.
And the rest of Major League Baseball, the other 29 teams together, have only bunted 4 times in the first inning. So that's how much they bunt. And statistically, it's a terrible move that it's under 40% that the runner scores after you bunt it and give it up and out.
I think Bill James is the first one to come up with that. He's he wrote the Baseball Almanac, and he's kind of the mastermind behind Moneyball and everything. Right. And he was able to just show, statistically, a man on first with nobody out is going to score more often than a man on second with one out.
Yeah. Right. And in certain situations, at the end of extra innings or the ninth inning, tie game,
Sure.
bottom of the ninth.
There would be times,
There
yeah.
would be times that it'd make sense, but in this instance, it wasn't. Anyway, Randy Jones is a purist, so he was arguing that the bunt is a good thing, that the bunt's been around a long time and they don't bunt enough, is what he was basically
Right.
saying.
Manufacture runs.
Manufacture runs,
Yeah.
right. So anyway, Craig Elston went on to tell him how bad a move it was, and he couldn't really convince him. And so finally he said to him, well, do you play craps? And this is when my ears perked up, because he's like, do you play craps? And obviously Elston plays craps and knows how to play. And Randy said, well, no, not really. And he said, well, it's kind of like the field, betting in the field. There's a lot of numbers out there. It looks like a good bet, but statistically, it's not a very good bet. So, you're throwing your money away, and that's what bunting's like. And Randy, he just went on, well, I don't play craps. He just poo-pooed the whole craps thing.
Right.
And so Elston said to him, well, do you play blackjack? And he said, yeah, I play blackjack. And he said, well, do you ever split tens? And Randy said, well, it depends on what the dealer has. Okay. So then at that point, I could barely stop from laughing, because you never split tens.
Yeah, unless you're counting cards and it's an
Right.
extreme situation and you don't mind having everybody look at you like you're an idiot.
Right. You'd never split tens. But he said he played blackjack. Obviously, he's not a very good blackjack player. But that was basically it. I just got a big kick out of them bringing up gambling to discuss bunting in baseball.
Yeah, well,
So
it's a pretty good analogy.
It's a pretty
I guess.
good analogy, yeah. And props to Craig Elston if he plays craps.
Yeah, good. All right, so Paul, you have been going out to Viejas and
Yes.
playing blackjack.
Yes.
And I understand that one of your favorite things, one of the reasons you head out there is because they've got this Buster Blackjack side bet. And we talked about it a little bit on a past episode, but tell us how that bet works.
Yes, well, it's a side bet, and you're betting. It's a completely different. You're betting that the dealer will bust. And depending on how many cards the dealer busts with, you get paid differently.
Different odds. Okay.
Different odds.
But you get paid, as long as he busts it all, you get paid something. What
Yes.
is it, 2-1 or something
It's
like
2
that?
to 1 if it's from up to 4 cards.
Okay.
Five cards.
3 or 4 cards.
Yeah, 3, 4. On 5 cards, it's 4 to 1, and on 6 cards, it's 15,
Yep.
and 7, it's 50, and on 8, it's 250 to 1.
250 to 1.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. And do you have to have a regular blackjack bet to make it? Is that-
Yes,
Okay.
and it has to be the same. Like if you have $20 on your regular bet, the most you can have on the Buster is 20.
Okay. So it can't be more than your regular.
Right.
What's the most you can bet on it?
50.
50 is the most.
So they
Okay.
do have a max of 50.
50.
Yes.
Okay.
So a 50 and an 8-card bust is you get 250 times 50.
yeah.
Right,
Basic.
12,500.
12,500. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty
So
good payout.
Right, if you ever see it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Well, you've seen an 8, right?
No, I haven't.
You haven't. Oh,
No,
7 is the most you've
I've
seen?
7.
Hey, where you-
I've busted with 8, but
What did you get when you busted?
I gave him my money.
at least you didn't have to give him $12,000.
Dollars,
Right.
right.
Well, did you hit? Were you betting when you saw the 7 or no?
Oh yeah,
You were?
Yeah, I've hit it a couple times.
How much you have on it?
I had 10 once and 5 the other. So
Okay.
nothing big, but
Okay.
it's
Well,
nice.
it's still $10, and what'd you say it pays?
50 to 1, 10. That's
500 bucks.
500 bucks.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you could be down 500 for the night.
Yeah.
Right.
Hit
get right back.
one. Get
It's
right
a good
back
way
in.
to get back.
Yeah.
If you need to get back fast, that's the way to go. But it's it's
Sounds like a bet for me.
Yeah, a little bit of a sucker bet, but
Yeah,
it's kind of fun.
I was looking at it today. I think we talked about it before. It's got like a little over 6% house edge, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
On it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we've talked about this before too. The thing about blackjack is, if you're just playing blackjack, the most you can win is 3 to 2 when you hit a blackjack, right?
Right.
There, on a regular blackjack bet, you can't win a little,
Bet
win
a
a
little.
lot, bet a little and win a lot.
Right.
So, and this is what these side bets,
Right.
what makes them fun is, I put out a little and boom.
and
Yeah.
it probably brings people in because they like the extra action. Or
Yeah.
So-
well, I like it because it makes the game more
you never
interesting.
played it.
No, I mean I like side bets.
Right. Yeah.
I've never played that,
Right.
but I like
Yeah.
side bets because they make the
Right.
game more interesting. I mean, it's just like when we play for a while there. Remember, we'd play poker and we'd certain games we'd bet amongst ourselves.
Yeah, side bet.
A side bet between two guys, like, I bet you my hand's better than yours. Doesn't matter if we win the pot. We just
Right,
betting.
it's just-
Just a little extra
Like
excitement.
side bets, yeah. Well, and you play. So, I guess it's like anything else. It can get kind of streaky.
Oh yeah.
So,
I mean, it's sometimes a dealer will play blackjack
Sure.
and he'll bust like 5, 6, 7 times in a row.
Right.
And I usually up my one bet and the buster when I bust. I use that money to press.
Right.
So you get up to $30. You've won all that times before, and then if something does hit big, I've hit 6 cards with I think 25 or 30 out there before.
Okay.
So
Yeah. So it's one of those. So I guess in a typical night, you might lose more. If where you might have won if you'd only bet regular blackjack because you keep beating the dealer, but he doesn't bust.
Right.
But then other nights, if he's just on a real busting streak, obviously you're usually going to win your regular bet and the Buster Blackjack.
Usually your regular bet is bigger than your buster,
Right?
Because if you have it even, I mean, you're not.
Then it's and if
you need the big one.
You win the Buster bet when the dealer busts, even if you've already busted. Is that true?
Right.
So that's kind of nice too.
That is
separate
nice.
bet.
That is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could have a 16 against a 10. You take a card, you bust. But you never know. The dealer turns over a 6 themselves, and you win that buster bet. You could actually make money on the hand, right?
Here's another thing.
They could have a 4-card bust.
If you have a blackjack and they 7-card bust, you get paid the regular on the buster what you have or whatever, but you automatically get $1,000 for having a blackjack on the buster. And if they 8-card bust, you get $8,000 automatically
when you have a blackjack.
Yes.
And they bust with it.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
So
they have to have 7 or 8. You don't get that if they have a 6 or a 5.
you get 40.
$40.
And I actually
46.
got that last week.
Really?
Yeah, well, that's not
So it
bad.
doesn't matter how much you've got on the Buster Blackjack bet.
You have to
It's
have
just,
at least 25, at least 5.
At least 5.
at least
least
5.
five.
Oh, okay. Because you could bet only $1 out there.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So that's another thing too. It's the table minimum for the Buster is $1.
$1.
It's less than the
Okay,
table
it's less than
minimum
the table
for the-
minimum for.
It's just that you won't get the extra.
Okay, so you always want to put out the 5 out there,
just in case.
just in
You
case
hate to
you
miss
get
8,000.
blackjack and the dealer busts with 6 or more cards. Okay,
Yeah.
$40 for 6. What'd you say? $1,000 for 7 and 8,000.
8,000, I
For eight,
believe.
huh?
I
For
thought it was
eight.
9, but I think it's 8.
Okay, oh, that's nice.
That's not a bad thing.
No,
Boy,
but-
that'd be sweet.
Because
Ed.
too, if you have the 50, you get the 1250 plus the 8.
Right.
Plus, so
Right, yeah,
you're
that's a
over
huge
20.
hand.
You're over
20,000. Oh, yeah.
20,000.
Huh?
That's a huge hand. You know what? That reminds me to mention, and I'm kind of pissed off about this, that the fire bet hit out at Harris Rincon, not last weekend, but the weekend before. It hit 3 times in a weekend.
You weren't there.
I was not there.
Okay,
But the fire bet hit a 6, all 6 numbers.
all 6 numbers.
5 numbers and 6 numbers within a 24-hour span.
Wow.
And one of the players, we've actually mentioned him before, Mr. Wynn, he was rolling on the 2 6s. I mean,
he actually had the dice.
He actually had the dice and
Wow.
was the shooter.
Wow.
On Friday or Thursday night and a Friday night. So between Thursday night and the end of Friday night, it hit 3 times. We've never hit it, as we've discussed before.
Nope.
We haven't even got close out there.
Well, not at Harris. No,
No, not at
Rincon,
Harris.
yeah, no.
We've got close at other places,
Yeah.
but we've never even got close at Harris Rincon, and then it hits 3 times in a 24-hour period.
Welcome to gambling.
Yeah. Now, that'd be like going out there playing blackjack and in the same night having 2 8-card busts,
Yeah.
right?
I'm
And-
still
yeah,
looking
pretty
for the 8-card bust myself.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, how many decks in the game?
They have a couple single, a couple doubles, and then the rest, the shoe games are all 6 cards.
Because it seems like
six
you'd
decks.
want to play a shoe game, in this,
You
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
want to play a shoe game.
right?
Sure.
Because then more
Yeah.
deuces and aces and
Aces.
coming up to
Right.
to
Yeah, that's the only way you're going to get an 8-card bust.
right.
Is
It's a lot of low cards, and then
It's
hit up to
amazing
16.
though how many times they'll get like 7 cards up to 16, and they just keep. It's just these little cards, little.
Yeah.
It's just like something has to come out, but no, it's
And then they make their hand with the
hand.
final.
it's
yeah.
it's amazing. It's gambling, like you said.
Yep, exactly. All right, well, we're not going to do a poker home game segment this week because we've got a lot of poker to talk about here. And one of the reasons that we asked Paul to join us is because this last weekend, the 3 of us took part in a charity No Texas Hold'em poker tournament. This charity was to raise money for Mike's daughter's softball league, right?
Right.
Okay. And they held it at Roy's restaurant here at the Marriott on San Diego Bay, which is a real nice restaurant, overlooks the harbor there. And it was for charity. So we want to talk about it. How should we preface this? It was one of the worst poker tournaments you'd ever want to attend. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. I mean, it was the worst run poker tournament. I mean, it's hard to compare because it's for a charity.
Right, it's for a charity.
So, but it was so poorly run, it was pathetic. And the funny thing is, and I just found this out today, you guys don't know this, my wife talked to one of the people who's on the board of the softball league, and they evidently paid quite a bit of money to the company that ran the poker tournament.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, she didn't tell me exactly how much, but she said, they said they paid a significant amount of money so that it would be run well, and they thought they were getting professionals.
Well, so they hired a company that specializes in casino parties. And Mike, you and I actually worked for one of these companies
for quite
years
a few
ago.
years.
Yeah. We would deal craps or blackjack, whatever they needed. Yeah. Not so much poker back then because the poker boom hadn't really hit. So
it was mostly craps and blackjack.
Yeah, but it was a professional company that they hired to come out. So let's kind of tell the story. We got there at about 5:00. It said that registration was going to be at 5, I guess, and that the tournament would start at 5:30. So the three of us got there, and we walked in, and it was like is this the right place? Because
nothing was set up.
Nothing was there, and it's like, are we? But then we saw, okay, there's some tables there, and it's like, okay, we were the only ones there.
Yeah, we were. I think there were a couple of people who were organizing it, who were starting to get ready.
Yeah. So we checked in.
Yeah.
And even that wasn't ready yet, right?
They were.
Who's got a pen?
Yeah, nobody had a pen. They took a while to find a pen,
and so. They finally, got a pen, and they were looking at your entry.
Yeah.
And you had prepaid some of this.
Yeah, they wanted, half the money down. It's a charity thing.
Right.
So they're trying to, in case somebody doesn't show, they've got, some money. So I had paid half of our entry fee already.
Right.
And then they said, oh, you owe $25 more than we owed another $75.
And they
were asking for $100, and I was like, well, I already paid $75. It was supposed to be $50 each. And
but you got that worked out. So that was the first little thing.
Yeah, they worked it out. They realized they had made a mistake.
So they were going to have free food at this, and they gave us each wristbands. The kind that you get like at a fair, like at a county fair or something like that, so you could go on all the rides. So it was one of those paper wristbands that you pull off a little plastic strip and it's
supposed to stick together.
It's an adhesive and it sticks together. So those wouldn't stick at all.
Yeah.
It wasn't even close. It wasn't like, it's sticking a little. It was like there was no stick.
They were probably old. They were probably just old.
It could be. Here, let me give you another one. None of us, it was.
I licked mine finally and got it to stick,
So everybody, as the whole evening went on, everybody had these wristbands that they just had like in their pockets.
Right.
Or, here's my...
I mean, you didn't even need them, though. What were they for?
Yeah, I don't know. You didn't really need them because...
everybody there was there for the tournament. It wasn't like the public could just stumble on
it was upstairs in a separate room, so, nobody's going to walk in and eat something.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're looking at this. It's about 5:00. I said, it's going to start at 5:30. I turned to Paul and said, there's no way this is starting at 5:30.
Yeah.
Right? They're not ready at all.
So I said, let's get a drink.
Yep.
And that's what we did. We went and got a drink.
We went to the bar. Paul bought us drinks, and we sat there for a while. So we went back at 5:30, and of course by then there were more people. But they were still setting up.
Oh, I don't think it started till well after 6:30.
And I don't, the dealers weren't even there yet. So I don't even think the dealers were told the correct time.
Right.
But anyway, eventually they got the table set up and, the dealers came in and started to sit down. And then they announced, all right, everybody take a seat. I was expecting there to be like assigned seats, right? It's a tournament.
Right.
But okay, it's a charity, just find a seat. And the guy even said, this will be the beginner's table.
Right.
For a tournament.
Right, for a tournament. Well, they they're trying to raise money for the charity, so they've got a lot of people who have different skill levels. I mean, some people have never even played, but they want to donate some money to the charity, so they're there, And so I kind of understand the beginner's table
it's hard to
a little
complain
bit.
about that.
Because you don't want them to like sit down and be done in like 10 minutes.
Well, okay, and I'm jumping around here, but see, the thing is, they said this is the beginner's table, but tell them what happened with that beginner's table and this dealer.
Oh yeah, some guys sat down. I mean, mostly it was women, actually, who had never played.
Right.
But some guy came and sat down at the beginner's table. He turned out he was a dealer at one of the local casinos at Verona. And I guess he didn't even have a kid who played softball or anything. He just knew somebody who was going, and he heard it was a poker tournament, and they invited him to come along. So he came along and played in the tournament. But he sat down with a bunch of, people who didn't even know what hand beat what hand. Right. And so he wiped him out, and within a few minutes, completely wiped him out.
So a professional dealer sat down at the beginner's table,
right,
wiped him out, raised his hands.
Yeah, and I guess he was talking it up a little bit, and so then they moved him to another table, to actually the table that Paul and I were on, and he came over there, and he was pretty much a loudmouth. He was pretty arrogant.
Yeah.
But it was just funny is that the people, one of the gals at the beginner's table was my daughter's coach. And she had only played poker once before in her life. And probably not in a tournament style, just, at a friend's house or something. And she said, well, I wanted to rebuy, but it went so fast the first time, I didn't really. So she just quit. And
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Well, so it wasn't assigned seats. So Mike, you and I, we decided, well, let's sit at different tables, so we're not like beating each other up. Plus, maybe we can talk up the podcast and at different tables. But you and Paul were at one table, and Paul, tell him what happened. I think this was before they even dealt, right?
Oh yeah, this was before it started.
Yeah, I didn't even know. I'm just sitting there with my beer.
Yep.
And this guy comes over.
Another dealer.
Another dealer, right?
Yeah.
And he's waving his arms around. And he just spilled a drink right in my lap.
He was talking with his hands, basically, and he said something, and his hand just shot out, and he just knocked Paul's beer right off the table, right into Paul's lap. And
I didn't even say anything. I just was like,
Paul
what?
just was completely silent, covered in beer. Yeah. And the funniest thing is, I'm looking at the guy thinking, oh my God, he's going to like, oh, sir, I'm so sorry. Paul, he never said a word. Like it didn't even happen. He just looked down and he said, oh, good, none got on the table. And then he kept talking to the other dealer. Meanwhile, Paul's covered, from halfway down his chest to below his, to his knees, somewhere in there, completely covered in beer. And it's beer, so it's sticky, and it's not the best thing to get spilt on you. And the guy didn't offer to buy him a drink, didn't offer to.
So he didn't replace your beer?
No, didn't replace his beer. Didn't even
acknowledge it.
No, he didn't even get a napkin and say, like start wiping the chair. The chair got all wet and everything. He just like it never ever happened. And he said a couple more words to the other dealer who was sitting at our table. And they were talking about something about the tournament. And then he just walked away. And I'm just like stunned. I'm looking at him like, what the hell? Yeah. He never said a word.
And this is a dealer from working with the company that was running the event.
That was running the event.
He was the real deal.
The funny thing is the food and drinks were all donated. So they're free, basically. Yeah. They were charging us, $3 for the food was included, but $3 for a beer or something. Yeah. But he could have easily just walked up to the thing and said, oh, give me a beer. I spilt the beer on this guy. They would have just given it to him. It's not like it would have cost him any money. He could have even apologized.
Not even that, if he just would have said something. He didn't, it was the weirdest thing. It was bizarre.
It was funny. It was.
He was the one that our dealer kept saying, oh, he's the real deal.
Yeah.
This guy's the real dealer, remember?
Our dealer kept saying, yeah, we're kind of all, we work for this company, but that guy, he's a real dealer. He's dealt at the World Series of Poker. He dealt to Doyle Brunson. And he said that like 3 times. He's dealt to Doyle Brunson. And I kept thinking, well, then can he say, I'm sorry I spilled a beer all over you?
So we got off to a good start there before even one card was dealt. The tournaments, they brought out cards. First of all, I remember we don't have any cards.
Yeah,
every
no
table.
Cards. First there was no pin, then there were no cards.
So they brought out cards, and the cards were just every table had a different kind of cards, like those
Right.
the rejects from, or the ones they
Right.
sell at casinos,
Yeah.
right? That they
Right.
mark up, right, and what have you. My dealer luckily checked our deck because
Yeah, our decks never got checked, by the way. So
Yeah.
who knows what was in there?
it's true. Our dealer checked the deck, and there was an extra deuce of diamonds in there. No, every card was there plus an extra deuce of diamonds.
You're
It wasn't that one was missing.
You're sitting there, you look down at your hand, you've been dealt 2 2s, you're looking, and then the flop is 2 2 2. And you're thinking, how do I tell him I've got 5 2s?
I'm going to jam the pot. So at least she checked that. Now, my dealer was not bad. I mean, okay, so these are not like dealers that, some of the dealers, I guess, actually deal in casinos.
Right.
But a lot of them, it was just kind of their
It's like us,
weekend.
when we went to college, we did it to make extra money.
Yeah.
But we knew enough about the games that we could deal.
So the dealer at my table, she was fine. She actually was very good.
Yeah.
But what about you guys?
Oh, he was
Worst
terrible.
I've ever seen.
Yeah,
was
no doubt.
Unbelievable. Even the
Unbelievable.
guy who never played next to me at the end, he goes, boy, he was bad, wasn't he?
Yeah.
You think? Wow.
Well, at least the first 5 hands dealt, we got 3 cards. I mean, it's Texas Hold'em. He'd deal around, he'd get to the button, and then just keep going. And he was shooting them out. And by the time someone would stop him, 2 or 3 people already had 3 cards. Then he'd back them up. And at one point, remember, he exposed Paul's card.
Yeah.
His second card. He exposed it. And then he just reached over and flipped it up upside down and then dealt the next guy a card. But when he dealt that next person a card, he exposed that one too. And then he said, okay, well, now it's a misdeal. And he took all the cards in.
Had he ever dealt before?
I don't
Yeah,
think
well, I don't know.
he kept saying he owned a company.
he said he
I don't
owned his own company, casino company, and he was, looking to get. He actually got a phone call while he was working there, and
That he answered?
he answered.
So
I just got a job.
And it was somebody wanting to hire him for something, and he said,
should say, "Don't do it.
I'm in the middle of
Don't
dealing."
do it.
So this guy owns a casino company,
That's
not
what
the
he
one
said.
he was dealing.
Not the
with
one he
that
was
night.
dealing. Another one. He started
He
his
owns
own.
a competitive.
In Mexico, it was in Mexico.
He said it was in Mexico. Yeah. That he owned
Okay,
it.
it was in Mexico that he owns.
Right. And he was going to do a party down at Rosarita Beach. Somebody called him and he said, "Oh, I'll have to call you back. I'm in the middle of a party here." And so we were all listening to his conversation while he talked on his phone.
Oh, that's great.
So
We see the one time where he dealt, he's not paying attention, and on the flop, we all bet, and the hand was over.
Right.
So pull the money in, and then
So
there's
it was
no
everybody,
money.
Everybody folded. It was
Everyone's
just-
folded. There's
Everyone
nothing in the middle, and he turns over the turn card.
and he waits.
and he waits.
He's waiting. There are no
And he
chips out
waits.
there. He's waiting. Where's
No.
the action?
He never
Sounds like he's
once
running-
ever pushed chips when someone won. You had to reach in and grab them.
Yep.
And there were several times where, somebody was all in and it was a side pot situation and he had no clue.
Oh, well,
I mean, we were all helping him with the side pots and it was brutal.
Jeez. Well, so the at the beginning, so we all got $2,500 in chips to start with, and I can't remember. I think the blinds started at like $2,550,
Yeah, 25.50, I believe.
and the blinds went up pretty quickly. Was it every 15 minutes or every 10
It
minutes?
seemed
or,
like every 10 or
was
15
quick,
minutes.
yeah.
It was very quick.
it was very fast, and it's fine. It's a charity tournament, but the guy said, "All right, and we've got rebuys. You can rebuy." For the first 3 hours.
3 hours.
So first of all, my jaw dropped. 3 hours
First-
and the blinds are going up. For the first 3 hours, you can rebuy for, I don't know how much it was, 20 bucks,
it
25
was
bucks.
$25 more for 1,000
For
chips.
1,000 chips.
Yeah.
So by like the first hour, the blinds were so high that if you rebought at that point, you'd have maybe 2.5 big blinds.
Yeah, well, when I had to rebuy, because I went all in and had 2 pair and got beat by trips.
Yeah.
And so I'll rebuy. It's a charity. So
Right, sure.
I pulled out 25 more bucks, got my 1,000 chips. At that point, the blinds were like 100 and 200.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you basically got three times around the table and I'm blinded out.
Yeah.
Right. So I did one, and the second time I thought, well, now I'm pretty much forced to just shoot all in again, right? Because I'm going to
Sure.
So, and then I was out, and then I didn't rebuy because I'm thinking, why would I want to do that? So then I don't rebuy.
Right. So you're out.
I'm out. And then a few minutes after I'm out, they announce that, now if you rebuy, it's 2,000 in chips.
Yeah, just on the fly.
Yeah.
They kind of, it makes it 2,000 because they probably realized
it wasn't enough.
But by then you were already out.
Yeah, then that's when I said, well, do I get back in now? I mean, can I just go sit somewhere and buy another 2,000?
Right. And we didn't mention this, but this was a charity and it was not for money. It was just for prizes. And the prizes were how much was each prize worth? Maybe
there were 10 prizes
or?
for the last 10 people, and no, they were like $350 values.
Okay, but,
like 4 Padre tickets and something else.
Okay,
they were all something else, and some of the things were stuff like a free in-home assessment of your heating and air conditioning.
Oh, great!
I
think I can get that without playing in a public tournament.
Right.
Could I pay somebody to not come out to my house and give me that?
Right. Please don't bother me.
Anyway, the rebuy at that point,
it didn't make sense.
Yeah, and so you were out, but talk about now this dealer we were talking about that went to the beginners table,
right,
and wiped everybody out. He ended up on your table at one point.
He ended up on our table, right, and he had just sat down. He hadn't been there but a minute or so, and I was on the I was first to act. He was the big blind. He was to my right. He was between you and I, Paul. Mm-hmm. And that's when I was pretty short stacked. So it came to me, and I was looking at my hand, and I was thinking, and I was looking around the table at what other people had stacked. And I was thinking, well, I wonder if I should, if this hand's worth pushing in, or maybe I'll just wait. Anyway, I'd taken a second to think, and he looked at me and said, "It's your turn." And I said, "Oh, I know." And then he laughed and smirked. Almost like, yeah, right,
Yeah.
And he just sit down. He didn't know me from Adam.
Right.
And kind of got under my skin a little bit. And I'm like, no, this guy, I mean, he was maybe 23 years old, you think? So, I was like, well, I've been playing poker since before you were born. I know it's my turn. I'm just thinking for a second. And anyway, got off. I had a bad first encounter with him. Let's put it that way. He was getting lucky, though.
Yeah, I mean,
he even admitted it.
He came with a lot of chips.
He came with a ton of chips, so he was trying to push everyone around. Yeah. But when he did say at one point, I heard him tell one of the other guys, he says, "Oh, I seem to be catching everything tonight." So he was.
Well, we had a break because after about an hour we had a break, so we're out. Kind of. There was a little balcony area. We went out there and we were just kind of complaining about everything that we'd experienced so far. But we went back to the table, and when I got back to my table, it's like, okay, the blinds are going up, and we've got a $25 antes now.
For some tables.
Okay, good. Yeah, so after, about 2 rounds of these $25 antes, we find out we're the only table doing that.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came. You guys weren't doing antes?
Nope.
I mean, most of the tables weren't.
Meanwhile, I'm card dead like crazy. I mean, you guys know I'm tight, but honestly, I'm getting like 8-3, king deuce. I mean, literally, I never had a pair all night.
Yeah.
I had one ace the whole night. It was ace-3.
Right. I remember that. I saw that at the end. After I was out, I was looking over your shoulder. I saw that ace-3.
Yeah. Right. So, I was not playing any hands. And,
well, you couldn't play. Not only were you not getting cards, you couldn't see your cards.
Well, okay,
I was just going to bring that up. That was the worst. Beer spilled on me, all kinds of stuff, but you just couldn't see.
There was no lighting. It was in a restaurant's like party room,
right?
I'll call it. And they had restaurant lighting. I mean, they had
kind of mood lighting.
Very little tiny lights in the ceiling that shone down on the table. So it's enough that you could know you were eating. You wouldn't know what you were eating, but you would know that you're eating. But playing cards, I mean, you couldn't see. I mean, it was really dark.
Yeah, when we first got there, the sun was still up.
Right.
And it was just coming through the windows. You could see it. I mean, it was sunlight. But once the sun went down, those little lights.
And they said to one of the people who actually worked at the hotel, so I heard somebody yell at her, "Turn the lights up." And she's, "That's it. That's as high as they go."
Yeah.
And it was like,
it wasn't set up for, tables like that. Yeah. So they're moving tables around to try to get it right under the lights meanwhile, maybe you can see your cards, but by then it's like, okay, I can't even tell what color this chip is.
The chip. Right. The cards it was fine.
Yeah.
The chips,
reading the chips was very hard.
That's why I just
And they were
pushed all in.
different kind of chips. I mean, they weren't the same.
No, they're different. Yeah,
They were different. Like the $25 chips were different than the $100 chips. I mean,
Well, but actually like a different style.
different style.
Even within the
Right.
same denomination,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
You'd have
Right.
like 125. They'd be green, but one would have like printed 25. The other would have nothing on it. and-
Right. Which is what you would expect if you came to my house.
Right.
Right. Because
And
you
I'll
bought
even-
a bunch of chips at different times.
Yeah, different-
It's not what you expect for a company you paid a lot of money
Right.
for.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I finally, like I said, I was card dead, and by this point, Mike, you were sweating me because you were already out, and
Yeah.
and finally, I was in the big blind. I had 8-4 suited. It's like, okay, this is my time, right? I'm
Right.
already in the blind, so I shoved, and then like 3 other people called me, and it's like, oh well, whatever. Well, the flop came 3 diamonds, but there was an 8 and a 4 in there. I had 8. What did I say? 8-4 of spades is what I had.
Yeah.
And it came, 8-4 of diamonds and another diamond. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, well,
You looked
hopefully-
pretty good. Yeah, you had two
hopefully
pair.
nobody has a diamond. So finally, it got to the point where all the cards were flipped up, and I was ahead. There was one woman at the table who really didn't know what she was doing, but that's the time she woke up with pocket aces.
And
An
one
ace-
of them was a diamond.
One of them was a diamond. An ace came on the turn.
So she had trip aces.
3 aces, and now I'm drawing dead because even
Right.
if I
Yeah.
fill up, she's going to have a bigger full house.
Right.
And then a diamond came on the river, and she made a flush,
Flush,
and
ace
so
high
she,
flush.
she
so she
got-
ended up beating all the
Right.
because I think somebody else had like a straight or something. They were ahead of her. She made trips. They still had outs, and then of course she made the flush.
So I was out. So then you and we go out on the balcony. We're calling our wives and saying, "This is what worst poker tournament I've ever been to. You can't believe it." We're laughing, and yeah, and
I mean, it was so bad it was funny.
it was funny. I mean, it's funny because we were never angry, really. Maybe
No.
Paul, you were angry when the beer came flying, but the rest of the night it was just so laughable. I mean, it was
Yeah.
just so bad. We never got angry. But finally, we're saying, "Well, let's get out of here. Maybe we'll go to the casino." And we're saying, "Well, Paul, maybe let's go." And by then, Paul, you were, like you said, the lighting was just
It was
It
terrible.
was driving you crazy,
Yeah.
right? So what did you decide to do?
I just didn't look at my cards, and I went all in blind every single time.
He just pushed all in
All in,
blind
all
every
in,
time without
yeah.
looking.
Yeah, which is a good way to go. It's like
It worked out well for a while.
Yeah, he couldn't
I
win.
had a monster chip lead.
All of a sudden, he's the chip leader because
He
he.
went about a half hour doing that. And
yeah.
it's so funny because he'd shove and he wasn't pretending like he was looking at the cards.
Right.
You announced
I
it.
announced it,
You
yeah.
just said, "I'm not looking, I'm all in." And I was watching. And,
One time they all folded.
Yeah.
You didn't look at your cards. You shoved all
Someone
in.
had to have an
and-
ace, right?
Yeah, and they all folded.
But that's what they were looking for. It's like, okay, now when do I call him? When do I? And it was comical because finally, somebody would call you with an ace. There was one hand you had 3-4, and you flopped 2 pair.
It came 3-4 ace.
That's right. Oh, that's right. She actually made an ace. That's right. I forgot. Yeah. Oh, but you kept shoving and shoving and shoving. Meanwhile, they're moving you to a different table. They're moving tables to try to get more light under
yeah.
all of them. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was a nightmare. Oh, they didn't color up either. So
that's
they got to a
right.
point where the blinds were real high and $25 chips were just pointless.
And they were
right?
all over the table.
And they were
yeah.
all over the table. People had big stacks of that. And yeah.
And eventually you shoved, and finally,
Yeah, finally
ultimately
I
you
lost.
were out. And what was that? About 2 hours in, an hour and a half in, something like that.
Yeah, we weren't there that long. The good thing I will say, the food was very good.
Food was very good.
Yeah, they had very good, because it
Yeah.
was from Roy's.
Yeah.
And they had very good food.
Yeah, Roy's is like a Hawaiian fusion kind of cuisine thing.
yeah.
They had some pot stickers that were the food was excellent.
The food was excellent. Barbecue ribs
Yeah,
and
yeah.
pot stickers were good.
But like I said, we never were really angry because it was a charity. We kind of went in thinking, well, this probably won't be run that well. But
Right.
the fact that they'd hired a company,
Right. Oh, yeah. If it had been that way and it was just people from the softball league dealing or something, helping out,
Right.
then I'd understand. It's like, okay, you got to put up with this because,
Well-
but they hired a company, paid a lot of money. And last year, I guess they did the same thing and they ended up only making a couple $100 profit.
Yeah.
So,
If we wouldn't have had the dealer we would have had, it probably would have been a lot different.
yeah, it might have been.
Because he was so bad.
He
It
was-
was comical.
Yeah,
he
was-
might have been the
he
worst.
was
Maybe he was
very
the worst
bad.
one. Because like I said,
Oh,
my
by
dealer
far,
was
he had to be.
Oh yeah.
My dealer was very competent.
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
he
not-
was pretty bad, and if you didn't know better, I would have just swore he was on meth.
Oh, he looked like
And,
he's on drugs.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, you just had. I was
just
just like,
stopped.
Like,
He stopped. He was just like in a daze.
his mouth kept talking. He talked and talked. At one point, remember, he was going on and on talking about something,
Yes.
and I just said, "Okay, we're ready for the flop." I mean, right in the middle of his sentence, I said, "Okay, we're ready for the flop," and he just looked at me and okay, and he.
Well,
It was nightmarish.
It was nightmarish, but I'll tell you, we had a good time when we were
We had a
walking
good
back to
time.
the car.
Well, we ended up going out to Harris Rincon.
Yeah.
So we drove all the way up to North County, and all the way back, we were still laughing about it, going up there and coming back.
It was.
so.
I mean, it made a great story. And then we
Yeah.
thought, we have to have Paul on since he was a part of all this so that we could talk about this.
Next year, I'll do it at my house.
Well, that's what you were telling the woman.
Yeah.
I
I told her, we could do it at our house. I mean, and it would be so much better.
I'll deal, but I won't play.
Yeah. No, I seriously, that would be great because you get plenty of people. Then you could get really a lot of people to come.
I mean, I wonder how everybody else thought about it because we're coming at it from the perspective of gamblers, people who play a lot of poker,
right.
Tournaments, that kind of thing. I wonder for the people who were there who really didn't know what they were doing.
Right.
What did they think?
Well, I'll tell you what. Didn't you tell me one lady on your table said, if I lose, can I go home?
Yeah, right as soon as we sat down, she said, if I lose, do I have to stay? Because it was scheduled to 11 o'clock, and she thought maybe, if she was out,
She'll lose her $50 and
then
go home.
and then she has to stay.
So I mean, that's what you're dealing with, right?
Right.
People they really don't understand the tournament or anything.
Yeah.
So they're there to donate some money to the charity so their kid can play softball.
But, I think of our friend Dave, who has the tournament, a couple times a year, just at his house.
Right.
And how great that is. Right?
Oh, that is run. I mean, unbelievably good.
Of course,
Unbelievably good.
At the same, and he doesn't hire dealers, but everybody who goes knows how to play poker. He doesn't have anybody there who's clueless.
Well, remember when he first started doing that, we kind of switched the deal. But then he said, let's just pick one person to deal.
Right.
And there's always somebody like one. Usually it's us.
Yeah.
We'll say, okay, we'll deal, and we have no
I
problem
like
doing
doing
that.
too. So. All right. Anything else about the tournament or anything else we want to talk about?
No.
All right. So that's going to do it for this episode. Don't forget to email us with questions and comments. Our email address is youcanbetonThat@gmail.com. Also, you can visit our website, youcanbetonThat.com. You can check out our show notes and leave comments. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter at YouCanBetOnThat. We always tweet whenever we're on our way to a casino or if we're at a casino. And Mike is still looking for someone to give a free $20 pass line bet. If you come up to the table and tell us that, hey, I heard your podcast and we don't know you, Mike's going to make a $20 bet on the pass line for you. Also,
I'll not only make a $20 bet, I'll have Ron, the dealer out there at Harrah's, yell your name out super loud to the whole casino. How about that?
pretty nice, huh, Paul?
I don't know.
Yeah,
you can't just have the $20.
He'll just yell your name out. Everyone will rush over to see who you are.
We've got a Facebook page too, facebook.com/YouCanBetOnThat. Like us over there. And please review us on iTunes too. If you give us a good review on iTunes, then that helps us get more listeners. All right, Paul, thank you for joining us. And
Yes, thank you.
Glad to be here.
telling us about the beer. Because I was sitting at the table, I'm looking, where's Paul going? And I looked, I saw your
You
pants.
thought I dumped it on myself,
Of course,
didn't you?
yeah.
Of course.
You know what, though? Seriously, in all honesty, if I walked into that room and I had to pick one person that a beer would get knocked over on, it'd be you.
Yeah, of
I'd pick you in a heartbeat.
We all would. I think you'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
It's bound to happen to you. It's just like the bad beat. It's just waiting for you, Paul.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Night.